This is a play called Attempts on a Life by Crimp. Trigger warning, this play features epilepsy, suicide, sexual abuse, okay? And I hope you all will enjoy it. Thanks so much.
थोड़ा सा जूम इन कर दो बाद में
ये रहा
अभी जूम आउट करना जब लोग आने तब कर दो ठीक है
I'm calling from Vienna. No, sorry, it's Prague. I'm calling from Prague. I'm pretty sure it's Prague. Anyways, look. And I want to apologize. I realize how much I've hurt you, sweet, sweet darling, and look, there's somebody on the other line. I really am sorry, but I really have to take this call. I'll get back to you. Hi. Listen, I only have a moment. Are you there? No? Okay. Look, it's this. You remember what we were discussing? Well, what about this? What about if let's just say that the trees have names. That's right, the trees. I know you think I'm crazy, but let's just accept for a moment, shall we, that the trees have names. Then what about if this was her tree? Shit. Sorry, look after board now. But think about it. The trees have names and one of them is hers. I have to run.
This, Kato to J. Vinek Zereznai v Malan Nakladaku v Zadni Kasti Budova. Nakladak Dustinate on Bariho. Bari Viu Kontakshust Vos S Dalsimi Pokini.
Oh, hello. It's Mom. Hello, this is Sally at Cooper's. Just to let you know that the vehicle is now in the showroom and ready for your collection. Thank you.
We know where you live, you fucking bitch. You're dead, basically. The things you fucking did, you don't forget. You wish you'd never been born.
Anne? Hello? It's Mom again. Got your postcard. Looks very nice. And the photo. Is that really you? Glad you're making friends and so on. The thing is, there just isn't any money to send you. I've spoken to your dad and he says no. Absolutely not.
Just you made that clear.
I'm telling her. I'm really sorry, Anne, darling, but we just can't keep on doing it.
If you don't tell, I'll tell you and talk to her.
Look, I have to go now, darling. Your dad sends his love, alright? God bless.
Get well. Anne, are you there? Pick up the phone, Annie. Okay. It's a quarter after 10 here in Minnesota, and we're just calling to say that our thoughts and prayers are with you, Annie, and we love you very much.
And brilliant. It's moving, it's tiny, it's distressing, it's funny, it's sexy, it's deeply serious. It's entertaining, it's illuminating, it's cryptic, it's dark, it's... Let's meet. Call me.
Anne, good evening. Let me tell you what I'm going to do to you. First, you're going to suck my cock. Then, I'm going to fuck you up the arse with a broken bottle. And that's just for starters, little Miss Cunt.
It's no use hiding, and hiding from what? The world? Hiding from the world, and come on. Grow up. Grow up, man, and pick up the phone. So what is this then? A cry for help? Don't tell me this is a cry for help. Because what am I supposed to do exactly about your cry for help? And what if you're lying there, man? Already dead? Is that the scenario I'm supposed to imagine? The scenario of a dead body rotting next to the machine. The what? The larvae of flies listening to your messages. Or if your building has been destroyed. Or if your city has been destroyed. The airports and the shoe shops. The theatres and the fashionable halogen-lit cafes that have sprung up in the disused warehouses by the disused canals have been destroyed. So only the larvae of insects are listening to your messages. Listening to me, and as they tunnel through your remains. I'm growing morbid, and I think you should pick up the phone and make me smile. Make me smile the way you used to, Anne. I know you're there. I know you're there, Anne. And I know that if I'm patient, you'll answer me. You will answer me. Won't you, Anne?
That was your last message to send. On message.
Summer, river, Europe. These are the basic ingredients.
With a river running through it.
A river, exactly. Running through the great European city. And a couple at the water's edge. These are the basic ingredients.
The woman?
Young, beautiful, naturally.
And the man?
Older, troubled, sensitive, naturally.
A naturally sensitive man, but nonetheless a man of power and authority who knows that this is wrong.
They both know this is wrong.
They both know this is wrong, exactly. They can't help
They're making love in the man's apartment.
Doing what?
Making love in the man's apartment. A naturally beautiful apartment, obviously, with a view over the entire city.
A panorama of the entire city. Skylights, charming geometry of rooftops, quaint chimneys, and beyond the TV aerials are the monuments of culture. The Duomo of Florence, Arch of La Défense, Brandenburg's Gate, Nelson's Column, to name four.
The woman cries out. Her golden hair cascades as if it were over the bed's edge. She grips the bed's frame. Her knuckles whiten. There are tears in her
The
eyes.
apartment is beautifully
Well,
furnished.
obviously the apartment would be beautifully furnished. Obviously it would have high ceilings and tall windows, and in all probability it would date back to the 19th century when the speculative rise of the buildings coincided with the aspirations of the liberal bourgeoisie to create such monumental architecture, such as, I'm particularly now thinking of the Viennese Ringstrasse, which would have made such an impression on the young Adolf Hitler as he stood there one morning before the opera.
Parisian boulevards, even.
Yeah, or exactly like one of the great Parisian boulevards.
So,
Yes.
but as you were saying, meanwhile, her golden hair cascades over the edge of the bed. She grips the bed frame. Her knuckles whiten. Her pupils widen. And he,
Let's say he grunts.
Grunts?
Yeah. Let's say he grunts much sensitively. Let's say it's a sensitive grunt of an attractive man of power and authority. Not, for example, the horse pig-like grunt of a mechanic who's lying in a confined space trying to fix a nut with a loose and inappropriately sized wrench.
Absolutely
No,
not.
absolutely not. It's a grunt of a man who breakfasts on one continent and lunches on another. A man who flies first class with linen napkin and a comprehensive set of wine lists. Yeah,
That kind of man.
that kind of grunt.
That kind of light.
What kind of light?
You know, the kind of light that streams in through tall windows and turns their bodies into some kind of golden mass.
A living mass.
The lights, the mass, these are the essential ingredients. Yeah.
But now a look crosses her face.
Oh, what?
A look?
A doubt.
Yes, good. A look of doubt crosses Anne's face.
Even now.
Even now in the intensity of her
Even
passion.
now in the intensity of her passion, a kind of shadow crosses Anne's face.
A premonitory shadow.
Premonitory.
Yes. A premonitory shadow crosses Anne's face.
Is that a word?
Is what a word?
Oh yeah, of course premonitory is a word.
Later, night.
The lights of the city at night. Strings of lights suspended star-like along quays, frameworks of bridges, odd dull red warning lights on top of tower blocks and TV transmitters. Him at the telephone, his lowered voice, his troubled glances.
Anne wakes up in the solid walnut bed. Here's his adjacent here's his voice in the adjacent room. The exquisite Louis XIV clock beside the bed chimes 3 by the means of a tiny naked gilt shepherd striking a tiny golden bell held between the teeth of an enameled wolf, which is no doubt a reference to the ancient myth, well known to the French nobility, but now completely erased from human consciousness.
Ding ding ding.
3 a.m. Anne wakes up, appears in the doorway, lights a cigarette. Dialogue.
Who was it? She says.
Nothing, he says.
Who the fuck was it? She says.
And now
End
she's
of
angry.
dialogue.
Exactly, end of dialogue. And now she's angry because she knows exactly who it was.
His political master's calling
His
him.
political masters, that's right, calling him, just as they've always called him. The very political masters who Anne, in her youthful idealism, held responsible for every fucking injustice in this world. The very men and women who Anne hates with every fiber of her
The
being.
leaders who in a naive and passionate opinion have destroyed everything she values in the name of A, business, and B, laissez-faire.
In the name of A, rationalization, and B,
In the
enterprise.
name of A, so-called choice, and B, so-called
In
individual.
other words, a whole tragedy.
A whole exactly tragedy takes place in Paris, Prague, Vienna, or Berlin, and the moon vasts around and rises over the Renaissance domes, Baroque palaces, 19th century zoos and railway stations, and modernist slabs of social housing that exemplify the dictum. Form follows function.
function. Yes.
Tragedy of love.
This whole tragedy of ideology and love.
She stubs out her cigarette.
She begins to shout.
She begins to beat him with her fists.
She begins to bite him with her
She
teeth.
begins to kick him with her bare white feet.
She beats and beats
She
and
beats and
beats.
beats until that Louis XIV clock you mentioned, that's probably survived 3 centuries and 2 revolutions. It's smashed on the highly polished parquet
The
floor.
tiny,
And she
tiny,
beats.
the tiny golden shepherd and the tiny bell is vanished, or a rather nice touch, this is vanished forever under the walnut bed.
Until she stops. Okay, let's say like she stops for breath, shall we?
Who? The woman?
Yeah, the woman, Anne, stops for breath. Finally.
And he?
He bows down,
Yes.
looks up at her,
Yes.
takes her tear-stained
Takes
face between his
Anne's tear-stained face between his hands like a precious chalice.
or like a rugby football.
Yeah, takes Anne's tear-stained face between his hands like a precious chalice, or as you say, like a rugby football just before a drop kick.
He still loves her.
Oh, for all their ideological differences, yeah, he still loves her. Speech.
One day, Anne, he says, you'll understand my world. One day you'll understand that everything has to be paid for, that even your ideals have to be paid for. End of speech. At which he smooths the wet strands of hair from her lips and kisses her. These are the basic ingredients.
He kisses her and presses her back down onto the bed. Or you know what? Better still, she presses him back down onto the bed. Such is her emotional confusion, such is her sexual appetite, such is her inability to distinguish between what is right and wrong in this great consuming, in the high-ceiling apartment with the polished parquet floor, the grand piano by circa 1923, and without it, should perhaps be noted that any means of protection in the case of Anne against unwanted pregnancy, and in the case of either against sexually transmitted diseases, the AIDS virus, or which should be more appropriately called as the human immunodeficiency virus, the HIV virus for short.
A portrait of a young girl sketching, once thought to be by David, but now attributed to his female contemporary, Constance Charpentier. A triangular yellow ashtray with a legendary card containing 3 cigarette butts and a quantity of fine grey ash.
A whole tragedy of love.
A whole tragedy of ideology and love.
These are the basic ingredients.
The history of a family, the history of the land itself. This land where her family has lived for generations.
It's a valley.
It's a valley, yes, deep in the hills.
It's a valley deep in the hills where the traditional ways have been maintained for generations. And there are fruit trees.
Each child who's born in the valley has a fruit tree planted in their name. In fact, it's kind of a ceremony.
A formal, exactly, ceremony.
A kind of formal ceremony takes place in the village, and for generation upon generation, this formal ceremony of naming is taking place on the birth of each child.
The trees, in other words, have names.
They have names, just as the inhabitants have names. There is the person and there's the tree. There is Anya the woman and there's Anya the tree.
The trees have names, and so do the blades. The blades of grass have names because life is so precious, life is so felt, things are so alive, so sacred that even the blades of grass have names. It's something we can hardly comprehend.
We can hardly comprehend this sacred life. This sense of completeness is beyond our understanding. This sense of awe humbles us.
But now, devastation.
What?
Devastation. The harmony of generations has been destroyed.
This enclosed, secure world has been torn apart.
The harmony of generations has been destroyed. Women have been raped. Children have been disempowered.
Women have been raped and then disemboweled. Men have hacked each other into pieces.
Brother has killed brother.
Cousin has murdered cousin. Brother has raped
Brother
sister.
has, yes, raped sister, and now the dogs are picking over the remains.
The petrol used to fuel the ancient tractors and generate electricity for the old black and white TVs is now used to set people alight.
Yes.
First to set living people alight, and now for health reasons to burn the corpses.
Living people set on fire. The cold vapor of petrol and the hot rush of flame. Burning people running blazing across the fruit trees which bear their names. Scorching the leaves, writhing on the blades of grass while the soldiers stand there, laughing.
The soldiers are laughing, even though they are their own cousins, their own parents, their mothers and
Burning
fathers.
their own parents in the sacred orchard, burning them alive and laughing.
Or burying them alive up to their necks and smashing their skulls open with a spade. They have a name for this.
The flower.
That's right. The flower. And it's all there in her face.
It's what?
All there in her face.
In Anya's face. We don't need words. She's beyond words. Her mouth, in fact her mouth trembles but no words come.
The inadequacy of words.
The terrifying, yes. Inadequacy of words. And she stands there by a tree covered in delicate white petals, which is the moment. Yes.
The moment she realizes that this is her tree.
This is her own tree. Anya's tree. Anya's tree planted what, 40, 50 years ago? The hole dug up by her father, the roots spread out by her mother, watered and tended by her family, which now lie dead.
Her very own tree.
The air still smells of petrol.
It's spring. Panorama of the whole valley.
The whole deep valley in spring.
The trees, the
The
grass.
bee crawls into the cup of a flower.
And now she begins to speak.
Yes, because she must, because the words well up as she stands beside a tree.
The tree gives her the strength, the strength
She
to
points to
speak.
some charred timbers that she says was my home. My children were hiding under the bed. They killed them both. First the boy, then the girl. They set light to my little girl's hair. I still don't know why they set light to my little girl's hair. It crackled like a pile of sticks.
And then she breaks down.
Oh, Anya.
She screams, she breaks down, she scratches
I
her
don't
cheeks
think
like
so.
something from an ancient
I
tragedy.
don't think Anya screams. I don't think she breaks down and scratches her cheeks like something from an ancient tragedy. I think her eyes blaze. I think she advances towards the camera and begins to curse. You motherfucking shit-faced murderers, she says. You pig fucking cock-sucking bastards. You sister fucking blaspheming, child-murdering, mindless fuck-faced killers. I spit on your graves and on the graves of your mothers and fathers and curse all future generations.
She's angry.
She's very angry. She's very angry, but she has a right to be.
She has, well, obviously she has a right to be angry. Everything destroyed. A way of life destroyed. A relationship with nature destroyed.
And this is why we sympathize.
Of course we sympathize.
Not just sympathize, but empathize. Empathize because Anya's
valley is our valley. Anya's trees are our trees. Anya's family is the family to which we all belong.
So it's a universal thing, obviously.
It's a universal thing in which we strangely recognize ourselves, our own world, our own pain.
Our own anger.
A universal thing in which we strangely what?
It strangely restores.
Which strangely restores. I think it does, yes. Our faith in ourselves.
It's not her first attempt.
Shouldn't be her first attempt. She's tried it at various times. Even before she leaves home, she tries. Doesn't she?
True, she tries at various times throughout her life.
We see the other times.
We live through the other times. We live through these harrowing times.
We see photos, don't we?
We see a large number of photos.
We see them close to us. So close you can make out the little dots. Funny, isn't it, how everything after a certain point just turns into these little dots? Even a smile.
It's a happy smile. It's a genuine enough smile.
Oh, it's a genuinely happy smile, alright.
Because the thing is, nobody's forcing her to. That's right? Nobody's forcing her to smile.
No one's forcing her to do anything. The very idea of Annie, little Annie, being forced to do something is quite frankly ludicrous.
No question of it.
Absolutely, no question of it. No question of her doing what she does not want to do.
Everything after a certain point just turns into these little dots. Eyes, hair, smile.
Smiles from all over the world.
People from all over the world. People from all over the world being photographed with Annie. People from all over the world laughing with Annie. Characters, I suppose, just pop in and out of her life.
And then popped out again.
And then popped out again.
All no much. Some of them.
Porno? Come on. Hardly.
Pretty pornographic, some of these pictures.
I'd hardly call it pornographic. It's just high spirits. always meeting someone, always laughing, always smiling. She's always meeting someone, she's always leaving someone, she's always on the move.
Always by the side of the road with that big red bag of hers. Somewhere in South Africa with that big red bag of hers that she got from her mom and dad on her 16th birthday. Somewhere in Africa.
Somewhere in Europe with that big red bag of hers.
Europe, Africa, South America, you name it. Brazil.
Cuba, Brazil, Romania, Nigeria.
Romania, Cuba, Florida, Australia.
That's right, Australia, New Zealand, the Philippines.
Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, the Sahara Desert.
The Kalahari Desert, the foothills of the
The
Himalayas.
foothills of the Alps.
That's right. What's it called?
The Piedmont.
The Piedmont. Right, the Piedmont. Always at some foothills with that big red car.
Because, let's face it, she is concerned.
Well, of course she's concerned. We can see that she's concerned. You only have to look at her, for example, in these photographs. The way she's rubbing shoulders with the poor. You can see in these photographs that she's not afraid to rub shoulders with the poor.
Pictures of her in hills, the smiling hill dwellers.
Pictures of her in hills with smiling hill dwellers.
Yes, exactly. Pictures of her in this, with the smiling hill dwellers whose land has just been swept wow, by the wind.
And on the rubbish dumps.
Pictures of Annie on the rubbish dumps. Yeah, exactly. With the people actually living right there on the rubbish dumps. Actually living right there with their children.
Whole families of gypsies or whatever living. That's right. Apparently living right there on those rubbish dumps.
And this is important, how it differs from the previous attempts, and this, I think I have to say this, is that it was in no way a cry for help.
Of course not, of course not. It's clear that her mind is made up.
It's not a cry for help. And it's very important to establish that from the outset. Wouldn't you agree? No one could have helped her at that point.
Certainly not her mom and dad. Certainly none of her so-called friends.
She wouldn't have wanted help.
Help is the last thing she would have wanted.
Some of the strange things she says.
Some of the strange things she says to her mom and dad as a child. I feel like a scream.
Oh, I feel like a scream.
She's lying there, isn't she? With a tube in her poor thin arm, looking terribly pale. Whiter, in fact, than the pillow.
Like a TV screen. Everything looks real and alive from the front, but round the back, there's just dust and a few wires.
Dust and a few wires. Her imagination.
She calls herself, she doesn't like to be called a character, like a character in a TV or in a book. She calls herself the lack of a character, an absence, she calls it, of character.
Absence of character. Whatever that means.
Then, she wants to be a terrorist, doesn't she?
That's right. One day, she comes down to the kitchen with those big, earnest eyes of hers, and she looks up to her mom and dad and she says, I want to be a terrorist.
The look on their faces.
She says she wants her own little room and a gun and a list of names.
Targets.
That's right, a list of so-called targets. She says she wants to kill one a week and then she wants to come back to her little room and drink Earl Grey tea.
That's right, it has to be Earl Grey tea and it has to be one a week.
Her poor mom and dad are horrified.
They absolutely do not know how to take this.
They've never bought Earl Grey tea in their lives.
She'd like to act like a machine, wouldn't she?
Act? She'd like to be a machine. Sometimes she spent whole days on end pretending to be a television or a car.
A car or a television or a treadle swing machine.
A treadle swing machine. Oh, the things she comes up with. Oh.
Then the next moment is off around the world. One moment it's Europe, the next it's Africa.
Somewhere in Europe.
Europe, Africa, South America, you name it, Brazil.
Cuba, Brazil, Romania, Nigeria.
Romania, Cuba, Florida, Australia.
That's right, Australia, New Zealand, the Philippines.
Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, the Sahara Desert.
The Kalahari Desert, the foothills of the
The
Himalayas.
foothills of the Alps.
That's right. What's it called?
The Piedmont.
The Piedmont, the seen him. Always at some foothills with that big red bag.
And don't forget the same hair down to her waist.
That's right. The same long hair down to her waist at 40 the way she had at 20. Still like a little girl, isn't she, in some of these photographs?
Even at 40, she still dresses and looks like a young girl half her age.
But what's really conclusive is that the bag is full of stones.
The fascinating thing that's right is that the bag is full of stones.
The stones are there to keep her under how much ever she thrashes. You can see that the handles of the bag are tied to her ankles.
No question, in other words, for a cry for help.
In other words, she's planned all this. She's planned on thrashing. She knew that she would thrash. And she knew that the bag would just keep on dragging her down regardless. In other words, there is no question of the attempt failing. In other words, there is no possibility, no question of anybody ever being able to intervene.
Well, certainly
not her mom and dad.
And certainly none of us so-called friends.
If you can even call
But
them
you obviously
friends.
can't call them friends. And you're tempted, aren't you? Tempted to think that perhaps from the very first moment, the bag was always full of stones. From the very moment she left the mom and dad's house. Aren't we? Well, aren't we?
Aren't we what?
Tempted to believe that perhaps the bag was always full of stones. From the moment she left her mom and dad's house and went down her mom and dad's path and sat on the bus and on the hills and the slums and the cobbled Renaissance piazzas, the bag is always full of stones. And in the refugee camps, where she poses next to the stick like dying, just as she poses next to the Olympic-sized swimming pools of paunchy billionaires, the bag is full of stones. And on the airport carousels, particularly on the airport carousels, where she's waiting with the travelers from different time zones and war zones and waiting for the luggage to appear from the black curtain on the black rubber track. That bag, that big red bag of hers is always full of stones.
Well, we can't be sure.
Well, of course we can't be sure, but from what we know of her and what we've seen of her, it's not entirely impossible.
How can we be sure? Maybe the bag is full of old clothes, drugs, I don't know, something.
Why can't we be sure? Why can't we say for once and for all that the bag is full of stones and the stones would explain the smile?
The stones, it's true, would explain the smile.
The stones would definitely explain the smile, and there is a funny side to this.
A what?
A side, a funny side.
Yes, there's definitely a funny side.
Anne feels that there is sometimes a problem with the word singles, as it is often misunderstood, and she guesses that these holidays are not matchmaking events, but they bring together people of similar minds and help them live together as friends.
The car twists along the Mediterranean road. It hugs the bends between picturesque hillside villages. The sun gleams on the aerodynamic body. The aerodynamic body of the new Annie. We see the new Annie sneak along between the red-tiled Mediterranean rooftops. Fast, sleek, free. We now understand that the Annie comes with electrical windows as standard. We now understand that the Annie comes with drivers and passengers airbag as standard. We now understand that all the things other manufacturers offer as extras are offered on the Annie as standard. Air conditioning, engine immobilizer, and a mobile telephone. We understand that our children will be safe and happy in the back seat of the Annie, just as the adults will be relaxed and confident at the wheel. Happy, secure, in control. parks outside the halogen-lit shoe shops of the great cities. When we arrive at a destination in Yanni, we will always be embraced by good-looking men and good-looking women. We will not be betrayed, tortured, or shot. The 2-liter Annie achieves excellent mileage in the simulated urban cycle and is also available in diesel. As a testimony to our ongoing concern for a cleaner, greener environment, there are no filthy gypsies in the Annie. Not in the Annie, nor in the sun-filled landscapes through which the Annie drives. No one in the Annie lies, cheats, or steals. Dirty bastards, gangsters, motherfuckers. There is no room in the Annie for the degenerate races, for the mentally deficient, or the physically imperfect. No room for gypsies, Arabs, Jews, Turks, Kurds, blacks, or any of that human scum. We understand that 0% finance is available, but hurry, since this is a limited offer. The Annie crosses the Brooklyn Bridge, the Annie crosses the Sahara, the Annie streaks to the vineyards of Bordeaux, the Annie streaks at dawn through the North African villages. Fast, sleek, free, where the women can only gaze with wonder at the immaculate breast-protected paintwork with its 5-year warranty. No one ever backs the Annie with explosives to achieve a political objective. No man ever rapes and kills a woman in the Annie before tipping her body out at a red light along with the contents of the ashtray. No one is ever dragged from the Annie by an enraged mob. No child's pelvis is ever shattered by a chance collision with a new Annie. The back seat is never made slippery by sperm, slippery by blood, slippery by beer, slippery by saliva, or sticky by melted chocolate. Melted chocolate. Yum, yum, yum. Or the road price includes VAT, number pays, delivery, and 6-month road fund license. Financial packages subject to status. Smoking can harm your unborn child. Your house is at risk if you do not keep up the repayments on a loan.
Doesn't seem to care. She has no conscience. She expresses no remorse. She says, I do not recognize
I do not
your
recognize your authority. Just what does she mean by that? Who does she think she is? Does she really imagine she won't have to account for the lives she's destroyed? Does she really imagine anything can justify her acts of random senseless violence? Nothing in her eyes reveals one spark
Not
of
one
human...
spark. That's right. Not one spark of human emotion or any sense of shame. Is this the same child? Is this the same child who once wore the pink gingham dress with the straw hat and went with the daughters of doctors, dentists, TV presenters, property dealers to the school on the top of the hill with the polished brass plates and the teachers with the strict tartan skirts? Is this the same child who once played with the fantasy Barbie, fantasy Ken, and all the other outfits, the tiny, tiny knickers and the tiny, tiny shoes? The horse and the Barbie's very own
This is
car.
the same little Anne who put all her tiny, tiny dolls, beads, and shoes in rows. And what's more, pray to God each night.
Pray
with
to
no
God.
sense whatsoever.
God bless
And
Mummy, God bless Daddy, God bless
Pray
Vicky the
God.
cat, God bless everyone. With no sense whatsoever of the irony, but rather in the sincere belief that there on her knees in her Minnie Mouse pajamas, she was actually invoking the blessing of the Father, the Son, and the Holy
Amen.
Spirit.
Who wet the bed each night, every night until her sleepless parents took her to the doctor with this heap of magazines. Who would pull down with a smile her knickers on the cold high leather couch and say with a smile, let's have a look, Anne,
the same
shall we?
man who came away from the hospital with a wooden box containing a bell to go beside the bed, two stiff squares of metal gaze and a number of
Same
black
man who
wires.
woke up each subsequent night to the sound of the horrible bell and the horrible wet sheets.
The same man who now what? Stands there in front of serious men and women with witnesses and evidences in sealed plastic bags, false passports and pieces of human flesh. Who stands there and refuses to
Piece of
recognize
human
the authority.
flesh, false passports, lists of names, trace of explosive, tapes of phone calls, videotapes from banks and shopping malls and cash dispensers. Psychiatric reports which confirm A, her intelligence, and B, her sanity. She set about her work, they say, with all the terrible detachment of an artist. Witnesses break down in tears.
Witnesses break down in tears. The videotape show Anne as just one more person, minding her own business in absolute silence. Until 20 minutes later, when the plate glass blows through the shoe shop window, and the tiny little grey figures start breaking apart and flying in the air in absolute silence. And with the tiny, tiny shoes are real human beings mixed with glass. No one can find out.
No one can finance motives.
She lives alone.
She lives alone.
She works alone.
She works alone.
She sleeps alone.
Apparently, yes.
Kills alone.
She lives, works, sleeps, eats and kills entirely on her own. In fact, her pre-recorded phone calls consist almost entirely of orders for meals to be delivered to the apartment she rented out, overlooking the high metropolitan suburbs. One large pizza, one garlic bread, and 1.5 liters of Diet Pepsi, all for £9.99.
Calls which are at first assumed to be coded
Calls
messages.
which are at first, that's right, assumed to be coded messages, but which are simply orders for meals delivered to her door by boys on scooters
Is
and
this
paid for
really
in
the
cash.
same little Anne who now has witnesses breaking down into tears? Who now has long-serving officers of both sexes receiving counseling for their amenorrhea, impotence, nightly sweats, trembling hands, and flashbacks of heads popping off as if in slow motion? And the long, long, terrible wail of an unreachable buried child recurring as some kind of, what's the word?
An auditory hallucination.
Yes, for which they are now asking to be
Same
compensated.
man who woke up to the sound of the bell and saw the shadows of chestnut trees moving on a bedroom wall and those horrible wet sheets.
The same man who soldered fiddly timing mechanisms and mercury tilt switches on printed switchboards with a mouthful of
Who
deep
summed
pan
up
pizza,
the mood of a generation.
who appeared twice in the cover of Vogue
Who
magazine,
sold film rights for $2.5
Who
million
studied in
US.
depth the baggage handling procedures and memorized the timetables of principal international airlines.
who was quote a loner,
Who
unquote.
listens, quote, expressionlessly, unquote, to the description of, quote, outrage, unquote, after, quote, outrage, unquote, that she has perpetrated.
It's kind of funny. And it's kind of sad. I guess it's kind of bittersweet. I guess it's one of those laughing through tears things. After such a long time, after so many years, he finally comes back home to his mom. And you know, at first, he's like, who is this? And then there's the moment of realization. Oh God, it's my very own son. You know, they're hugging each other in the kitchen, and that is just so moving. You know, it's so moving to see that he has found this thing, this strength. The strength to have forgiven her. To have forgiven her alcoholism. running around with other men, to have forgiven her for destroying his father's faith in himself and driving him to suicide. And then laughing and crying and laughing again, all at the same time, in the same kitchen, where he as a young child witnessed his parents' terrible arguments. His dad pouring the liquor down the drain at 10 o'clock in the morning, while his mom screams about how if he was a real man with 1 iota of self-worth, she wouldn't need to lose herself to death, would she? And there are these tiny scratches on the dining table, which he recalls having made with the fork as a young child himself. And you're aware of the continuity of things, of the bittersweetness of things. And then he says, "Mom, I have a surprise for you." And he points out of the window. Out the window, there's this dusty pickup truck. Right behind the pickup truck, there are these tiny kids staring, just staring at the camera. And she cannot believe that these are the very own grandsons. And then he says, "Mom, I want you to meet Annie." And this woman Annie gets out of the pickup truck. She's fair and strong-limbed, and she has these clear blue eyes that stare right into your heart. Well, I guess she's like every man's dream of what a good woman would be like. Every mother's dream of what sort of wife they would want for the son. It turns out how he and the kids and the wife have made this new life. They've made this new life away from the sun, growing stuff, chopping stuff, boring under the earth for clean, pure water, educating their own children in the belief that man is free before God to forge his own destiny and can choose whatever means necessary to protect his own family. And over lunch, which is basically chicken salad and mayonnaise, she gets to know all about her son, how he is the group of a leader of like-minded individuals who have armed themselves not out of any lust or bloodthirst, because it is a necessity. So what? War? Says Mom. What do you mean a war? So then I has to explain to her how the don't need taxes or welfare or any of that shit. And how the war is a war against the government that steals the bread from the poor man's mouth and feeds it to the abortionists and the pornographers of the world. That is a war against the crack dealers and the blacks. It's a war against the conspiring Jews and their attempts to rewrite history. It's a war against the degenerate images that masquerade as art. It's a war against all those who would deny our right to bear arms. Annie has this like inner light. It's as if she's cut through. She's cut through all the confusion and all the chattering voices of our lives and of our times and found this what? Thing. This like absolute thing. It's like okay, Annie has found this thing. It's like she's found this key, this key thing, this simplicity, this certainty, this simple and certain thing which we all search for throughout our life, and which is, I guess, the truth. Yes. And it's kind of moving to see how attentive he is to the kids, you know. He's the one who cuts up their chicken, who wipes their faces off with a napkin. You know, the idea of a big guy in camouflage doing all this caring, domestic stuff. His family is at the heart of things, I guess. And then suddenly, one of the young kids just looks at his dad on his plate of chicken. And he says, "Daddy, is she crying?" And it's true. She is crying. As she sits on this family table, gazing at this family she never knew she had. A son, this beautiful wife, the strong and innocent children who have their whole lives ahead of them. She is indeed crying her eyes out like a tiny child herself. And Annie, she looks at him and she strokes her hair. You know, and his hair is cut real short, you know, like a young soldier's. She looks at him and she says, because she's so happy, sir. Because she's so happy.
She's driving away from the bombed out city in a metallic red Cadillac Circa, 1956. When she reaches a checkpoint lit by stacks of burning tires and is asked exactly for her name. Strangely enough, she doesn't reply to this reasonable request, but begins instead a tirade of foul-mouthed abuse. Motherfucking shit-faced murderer, she says. You big fucking cock-sucking bastards. You sister-fucking, blaspheming, child-murdering, mindless, fuck-faced killers. I shit on your graves and on the graves of your mothers and fathers and curse all your future generations. And then when asked once more for her identity, falls silent. Then she's mumbling something about a garden, and something about the plum trees, and something about the city's right of fountains. And what's this? The water she used to warm in plastic bottles once in our afterwards. She's mumbling something about. She's mumbling something about. That's right. Speak up, you bitch. Something about the loss of electricity, the night spent in complete darkness, the decay of frozen meat. About the women banging saucepan lids in the streets or some kind of lamentation. About libraries being burned down to ashes, and all these books, and all the irreplaceable manuscripts, and about stale bread being thrown up the back of trucks. And on about her white gowns, and the white flowers, and the smell of sewage coffee and human remains, and meanwhile, that's right, meanwhile, like the soldiers crowd around this nameless woman with long grey hair, and round the red Cadillac lit by stacks of burning tires, and ask her, where the fuck on this god for fucking sake and nerd does she think she's going? The airport. I'm taking my child to the airport. You don't have to shout at me. I'm an educated woman, not some peasant out of your fields who came to clean your rich people's toilets. I have a passport, a US passport. I have a bank account in US dollars. And I'm taking my child to the airport now. Please let me pass. But, yes, as you say, there's no child to this room. Child? What child? And then women with passports don't look like this. Women with US dollars don't look like this. The hair is streaked professionally in salons with artificial highlights, not with human blood. And they don't drive back at Cadillacs. They own four-wheel drive Japanese jeeps with a spare tire that they'll never use, attached to the rear doors. Let's shine the flashlight beyond the back seat and see what it is that this woman's talking about. Let's get out the rubber child. What child? Exactly. Rubber flashlight and see what it is that this woman's referring to as a child. This nameless woman with long grey hair and a nastily pockmarked face. Nasty. And while we're on the subject of her appearance, why can't she be more attractive? Why can't she be a bit more sympathetic? Why can't she have a few more teeth? Why can't she bend over and let us see her ass? Why can't she break down in tears and make us long to comfort her instead of staring and then spitting like that? So what? Yes, sorry. Strangely, the light from the torch reveals only two black, shiny plastic bags, each tied at the neck. But no child whatsoever. And then she's mumbling something about her garden swing. Something about her little child, her little girl, her little lamb, her little Anushka. What's this? Something about Anushka being in the bags and her urgent need to take these bags to the airport with her bank account in US dollars and her education. Doesn't she realize that the airports are closed? Didn't she hear the runway being gone? Didn't she see those intelligent rockets splash at the concrete like stones dropped into a pool? Can't she feel the white heat of burning aviation fuel? No. Strangely, this woman is convinced that the airports are functioning normally. She believes that she can just fly to those cosmopolitan cities and those white beaches by regular flights. Strangely, this woman with long grey hair and nasty pockmarked face believes that she can fly first class with a little land out of the range of rifles and access to cities full of art galleries and halogen lamps and attractively displayed shoes. And yes, strangely, no one questions what she means by a child, her Anushka being in the bags. Strangely, no one tries to examine those bags. And yes, most strangely perhaps of all, no one questions why a child should be in 2 bags as opposed to 1.
Well, what we are seeing here are the various objects associated with the artist's attempt to kill herself over the past few months. Medicine bottles, records of hospital admissions, Polaroids of several HIV positive men with whom she intentionally had unprotected intercourse. Pieces of broken glass.
Suicide notes?
Yes, and as you can see, the walls of the gallery have been lined with her many suicide notes. Well, along with the suicide notes, there are, rather unpleasant, I have to say, video recordings of the attempts themselves. Well, I don't know much about other people, but after the first few minutes, I had began to wish she'd succeeded the first time around.
I think that's an inexcusably frivolous remark to make about what is clearly a landmark work. It's moving, it's timely, it's distressing, it's funny, it's sick, it's sexy, it's deeply serious, it's entertaining, it's illuminating, it's dark, it's highly personal, and at the same time raises quite questions about the world with it.
What fascinates me is the use of textures. I think there's great sensitivity in the juxtaposition of the materials used. Leather and glass, blood and paper, waxing and steam, which evokes in the viewer an almost visceral reaction.
I'm afraid what we're seeing here is pure narcissism. And I think we have to ask ourselves the question that who would possibly accept this kind of undigested exhibitionism as a work of art?
But surely that's exactly the point she's trying to make. Where are the boundaries? What is acceptable? Where does life, literally in this case, end? And where does work begin?
Well, with perspective, I think she'd find this whole concept of making a point ludicrously outmoded. When the point is being made at all, is surely the point that's being made is not the point. It has never been the point. Surely the point that the search for a point is pointless. The whole point of these exercises, these attempts on a life, points to that. Reminds me of that Chinese proverb. The darkest place is always under the lamp.
So what?
The darkest place, it's Chinese.
Why can't people learn to draw? Why can't people learn to paint? Students should be taught skills, not ideas, because what we see here is quite clearly the work of a girl who should have been admitted not to an art school, but to a psychiatric unit.
A what?
Mental hospital, somewhere she could receive treatment.
Well, I have to say that's an extraordinary remark that I would not expect to hear outside a police state.
Please.
And which, no, I'm sorry, I have to say that what seems to be an attempt to reinstate the notion of entire Kunst.
Rubbish.
The
That's an
so-called
absolute
degenerate.
overreaction.
I'm sorry, listen to yourself. You're saying that this artist should not be allowed to publish work, but instead be compelled to go to a
I'm simply
psychiatric unit?
suggesting that this poor girl, yes, requires help, and at no point did I
Requires
suggest that
help.
she should be
Oh,
compelled.
really? And in whose opinion? The opinion of Goebbels, the opinion of Joseph Stalin? Isn't actually anticipating the terrifying consequences of that very argument? Isn't she saying, I don't need your help? Isn't she saying your help oppresses me? Isn't she saying the only way she can avoid being a victim of the 20th century capitalism is by being her own victim? Isn't that the true attempt of these memes?
Her own victim. That's fascinating.
That really is such flabby reasoning.
Anyway, regardless of the various agendas and opinions we bring on this, I think we can all agree that this is clearly a landmark work. It's moving, it's timely, it's distressing, it's funny, it's sick, it's sexy.
That really
it's
is
deep.
such flabby reasoning. If she did actually try to take her own life, then our mere presence here makes us mortals in bedlam. If on the other hand, all of this is only play acting, then the whole work becomes a mere cynical performance, which makes it doubly disgusting.
Why not? Why can't it just be a performance?
Exactly a kind of theatre.
A kind of theatre, exactly. In a world where theatre itself has died. Instead of the outmoded conventions of dialogue, so-called characters lumbering towards the embarrassing denouncements of the theatre, what we have here is, we have pure dialogue between objects. Leather and glass, Vaseline and steel, blood, spit, saliva, chocolate. Anne is offering us a spectacle of her own existence. The radical pornography, if I may use that overused word, of her own broken, abused, almost Christ-like body.
An object of a kind.
Exactly.
A religious object.
An object, not of others, but of herself. That's what she offers us here.
Yes, but surely we've seen all that. We've seen all that in the so-called radicalism of the 60s/70s.
We've seen it perhaps, but not seen it new, not seen it fresh, not seen it now, not seen it in a post-human, post-radical context, where the gestures of radicalism take on a new meaning in a society where the radical gesture is just another piece of entertainment, just another product, in this case artwork to be consumed.
Theatre has nothing to do with it, and I bitterly resent the implication that I'm some kind of a Nazi.
She's the girl next door. She's the fatal flaw. She's the reason for the Trojan War. She's royalty. She practices hard. She's a refugee in a horse and a cart. She's a pornographic movie star, a killer and a brand of car. A killer and a brand of car. She's a terrorist threat. She's a mother of three. She's cheap cigarette. She's ecstasy. She's femme fatale. She's the edge of the knife. She's one hell of a girl. She's intelligent life. She's a presidential candidate for every little warring state. Every little warring state. She winters in the south. She collects antiques. She has a big mouth, but she never speaks. She's given a spade at the edge of the wood to dig her own grave by a man in the hood. She drives a tank over neonates while choosing to bank at competitive rates. She bombs by stealth, has unlimited wealth, has white knobbly knees.
What, knobbly knees?
Yes, knobbly knees, and can speak fluent Japanese. Oshigoto wa nan desu ka? Okusawa imasu ka? Okusawa imasu. She's an artificial tan. She's a fat in the pan. She's the film in the can, and she's the shit in the fan. She's the one who ran when the shooting began. She's a girl with a plan. She's a dyke with a pen. She's a man with a van, and she's a boy with a man. She's a dedicated football fan with a limited attention span. Limited attention span. She's the predator
She's the god of war. She's the fatal flaw. She's the girl. She's the girl. She's the girl. She's the girl. She's the girl next door.
You say she rides her bike in all weathers.
Cold. Windows. Yes.
And wears a hat.
Yes. She wears a hat.
Which you state she has knitted herself.
I believe.
She grows tomato plants in margarine tubs.
That's right. Or yogurt.
Yogurt pots.
Yes.
I see. Now, why do you think she does that?
What? Grow tomato plants?
Yes.
What fates? Fates. She sells them at fates.
Of course. And I suppose she takes them to feds on her bike.
Yes, she does.
In all weathers.
Yes, she does.
In a cardboard box.
Yes, she does.
Now, why do you think she does that? Why do you think she takes these tomato plants in yogurt pots? Why do you think she takes them to feds in cardboard boxes in all weathers? You state, quote, as a child, she often shared a bed with 2 or 3 of her younger siblings. Do you abide by that statement?
Yes.
Why?
Because she did.
Because she did.
Because she did, yes. Because they were poor. Because they had nothing.
Different world. If you could just sign here.
What?
Yes, if you could just sign here to say that you have read the statement and consider it accurate. Well, don't you consider it accurate?
Is that all?
For the time being, thank you. Thank you very much.
The best years of her life are ahead of her. She may be 17 or 18, but I think she is younger. 14 perhaps or younger still. It is very, very important to understand that she is in control. She's always in control of everything that happens, even when it looks one for dangerous, which it is not, obviously. Of course, there is no story to speak of, or characters, certainly not in the conventional sense. But that's not to say that skill isn't required. Since we still need to feel that what we are seeing is real. It isn't just acting. It's actually far more exacting than acting for the simple reason that it is really happening.
She enjoys it.
She enjoys her work. She's young and fit and happy with her body. How she uses her body is her decision. Obviously. Wanda doesn't stop her using her whole life. She has a regular boyfriend. All the normal interests of a girl of her age. Clothes, boys, makeup, music, pets. The difference is that porno is building up for her the kind of security and independence many women would envy. Porno is a way of taking control. Porno is the reverse of what it seems. But rather than consuming them, she's producing them. That for her is one of the beauties of porno.
She's not insensitive.
She's not insensitive to daily life. When a slice of top pine trees, you will be off. She has no
tiene una vida interior.
She responds sensitively to
Responde
it.
con sensibilidad.
This scenario, in fact, of the problem desensitized child humiliating and then filling off photographs without the knowledge. It's a ludicrous caricature. I can't.
Everything is provided for her needs, including a regular education. By age 21, the best years of her life will still be ahead of her. And she'll have the money in the bank from born. Not everyone has the start in life, or her opportunities, obviously. She could, for example, become a model, a TV personality. She could run her own country club or travel the world.
And could paint, swim professionally,
Or study a degree in chemical engineering.
and could change the world, and animals are,
And human suffering.
and learn to fly helicopters.
And to distribute world's resources evenly across the earth, raised from the dust the faces of the disaffected.
While guaranteeing not the roles of privileges of the middle class.
She will popularize psychoanalytic theory
By probing the roots of human behavior.
in a series of weekly magazine articles.
And has seen the world from the space. The wrinkles of the mountains, the kubatras of the rivers.
She has excavated the shallow graves and picked over the shattered skulls of the dead. She has scattered information in the optic fibers and danced with the particles of light. And has hosed down the streets of Bucharest and listened to the feet
I
of
will now
hearts.
demonstrate the crash position, which you should adopt when instructed by the stewards.
Deberías adoptar cuando así lo indiquen los mayordomos.
Head down,
Cabeza abajo,
knees drawn up.
rodillas
If
levantadas.
oxygen is required,
Si se requiere oxígeno.
oxygen mask will drop down automatically.
Las máscaras de oxígeno desplegables.
Put on the mask to start the oxygen. Do not smoke while oxygen is infused.
She has hung on the cross.
Please ensure that your seatbelt is fastened.
Grown a beard, entered the
Asegúrese
neckline,
de que su
and
cinturón
saved
The paper is folded away.
ushered in an age of
Mesa está
spiritual
doblada.
Atlantic is in an upright position.
The babe and the martyr
During the flight,
will
we
finally
will
be
come
reconciled.
around the list of duty-free quiz.
Estaremos viniendo con una lista de duty free
And will save us from the anxiety of our
para
century.
nos salvar de la ansiedad de nuestra
And usher in an age in which the spiritual and the material,
una guerra en lo que
the commercial and the trivial,
material,
the wave and the particle,
el ámbito comercial y lo
will finally be reconciled.
finalmente se reconciliarán.
See. Okay, well, there's been a lot on her mind. Things have changed over the past few years.
That is absolutely right, yeah.
I mean, we can say, let's face it that something has died.
Something has been what?
Has died. Something has died.
She feels she's failed.
Exactly. She feels she's failed, her work's failed.
I mean, yes, her work, but also personally. She feels that something inside of her has died.
And has it?
What?
Has it died?
Has what died?
The thing. The so-called thing.
What so-called thing?
The thing. The thing.
Let's say it has died. Let's say everything she's worked for her whole life has died. Let's say her whole life up to this point has been what?
Like a book, like a thread, like a book, like a thread, like a boat,
Yes,
like
let's say her whole life is very good up to this point has been what? Like a boat. Like a small boat.
Drifting.
Drifting quite happily across the lake, but now she feels that the water
It's coming into the cracks.
Creeping.
creeping to what?
Her broken heart.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. She feels the water of the lake coming into her broken heart.
Her work abandoned, her home abandoned by her children.
Herself abandoned by her husband. Where is he now? Paris,
Paris,
Vienna,
Prague,
Berlin.
fucking busy someone half an age in a city with Renaissance domes and Baroque palaces, enacting some fucking adolescent fantasy.
What?
Never had a husband. She never believed in that.
Okay, perhaps. She never believed in marriage, but she had a husband all the same.
Oh, God.
Who?
Paul.
Paul wasn't her husband.
Who was he then?
I don't know. He was just some kind of.
Like
I don't know.
smoking.
What?
Like smoking.
Like smoking cigarettes.
Talking of which, do you know she still has a thought actually of
Yeah.
What?
Of which, talking of
She doesn't.
No, she does. She still carries it around from room to room.
It's a ghastly thing.
It's not a ghastly thing.
It is. It's like the kind of thing you would find
It
in
is,
a
it's
cheap
like
hotel
this
room.
platoon.
Kind of
What's
hotel
that other
room for
thing
a few
called?
hours
What
on a
thing
weekday
is that?
afternoon with a man you want
Other
to
thing.
spend.
Tell the man
Other
you
word.
yeah.
Exactly, man.
What?
You just met. And I have no intention of ever seeing you
Um,
with this Roman bowl,
something
Roman
like
sock,
that.
and
Something like that.
aura of sudden unprotected sex and cheese.
Cuspidor, yeah, that's it. Exactly, that's cuspidor.
Cuspidor? What's a cuspidor?
Customer, it's a thing where you split it.
What are you talking about? Anne doesn't spit. Anne doesn't marry. She doesn't have children, and certainly doesn't spit.
No one's saying she spits.
Well, then why does she have the thing that you spit
She
in?
doesn't have a thing that you spit in, she has a thing that resembles one.
But in that case, what's a humidor?
Humidor is
Yeah,
Spanish. Just like Mata.
like compass.
It's a box where you
Yes,
keep
that's
cigars.
right, it's a box where you keep cigars.
So, what? She doesn't work?
No, she does work.
She has work.
She can work.
She will work.
She won't work.
Why?
She won't work.
But she has skills.
Yeah, she has skills, alright, but whatever skills she has seem inappropriate for the world she's living in. Whatever work she can do seems inappropriate to the world she's living in. All she can do is pace around the ashtray and take down books from bookshelves.
Oh, please don't tell me. The classic text.
The classic text, exactly, she would have read 20, 30 years ago in college.
And just like 20 or 30 years ago, gets no further than the
Those bits she underlined with a black biro.
Yeah, those bits fucking bits that she underlined with the biro. Why? Because she